feel free to jump on the stage, raise your hand. Right, we got Hefe coming up. Hey, Hefe. Good morning, man.
Hey, how are you?
Doing pretty well. How about you, man?
How's your I've been doing good. It's been busy. We've done a few interviews this week, and so just getting those together and getting them out. Yeah, that's what I've been working on. How have you guys
Cool.
been at Pixelcraft?
Oh, busy, busy, busy. We got so much on our plate this month. Tons of stuff to we could go over this fall. I'll always move on all cylinders here, like that little harvester just pumping. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the harvester video. That's basically our dev team going super fast all the time. Yeah,
Oh,
lots of different things.
yeah. What are what are some of the things that maybe you guys have been kind of working on? Because I know launch is happening now. Like the big launch is coming up in a couple weeks, so like that's really exciting. But probably for you guys, it's like holy crap! Like there's probably all these things that need to get done, right? So
Oh yeah, yeah. The main part is we've been working on making sure the Alchemica token contract is ready. There's a vesting contract that is going to have 10% of the supply, like we outlined in I think it was chapter 2, for vesting of ecosystem and the gameplay. And actually, I want to talk a little bit about the ecosystem tonight on this call. Once we get a few more people in. So some smart contract stuff. That's what I deal with most of. That's my main kind of job, is kind of managing the smart contract and the dev side. So obviously, there's a lot of work that's being done on that, and also on the Realm side, so much work. It's just basically like preparing this really cool method, this API that we have, where people can claim their Alchemica in game. You can pick it up, and then you can walk over to this new we're calling it the Vortex. So basically, this deposit station that you've seen in the game, that's going to be a real installation you can walk up to, and you'll be able to withdraw your Alchemica from it directly on chain. You won't even have to use gas. We're basically covering that for everyone. So that's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, this is like really where the blockchain meets the gaming part, where you can actually play the game and you can earn real Alchemica just walking around picking up these Alchemica tokens within the game. So that's a huge milestone for us and just for blockchain gaming. It's the fact that we have this like open world where anyone can play with each other at any time, and there's tokens all over the place. It's a pretty big deal, and I don't think the world quite knows how amazing it is yet. So a lot of room for people to get their minds blown.
Oh, 100%. I mean, touching on that trailer that you guys put out, I've probably watched it maybe 30 or 40 times now.
Yeah.
Just trying to get all the little bits of alpha out, because there is a lot going on in there that I'm curious about. So
yeah, we can unpack it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I was kind of like slowing the video down to try and see what was going on, because it's like only a minute long. So, but there's a lot going on in that 1 minute. The Tree of FUD, first of all, has like this really cool personality. Are there going to be, I wonder, so when we're doing missions and stuff in the Gotchiverse, are these characters going to be animated? Like, is the Tree of FUD actually going to talk and be able to do stuff? That probably won't be immediately, right? It'll be later on, probably when the grid is live and stuff. But are you going to be giving like life to some of these?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, the cool. Tree of FUD especially is it's a big character in the game. It's gonna give out little clues. It's gonna give out hints about what's happening next. It's one of the ways that the Gotchiverse will be communicating with the players, is through that Tree of FUD.
Oh, that's really cool. Like it's kind of almost telling the prophecy as it's unfolding.
Yeah, like if there's if we're getting close to a great battle, or if there's some signs or some as things kind of start picking up the pace, then the Tree of Fight is gonna be giving different signals out for sure. So people will be wanting to pay attention to those. And it's going to be, once we have quests introduced, the Tree of Fight will be a great place where people can get quests, be able to interact with that. I can ask them to do stuff within the world. Can be like a central character that people are always going to talk to, because it does have quite a bit of personality. That Tree of Fight. I mean, it's always been like this grizzled kind of wizened character. I really love the Tree of Fight, kind of the archetype of it. It's like
I love all the thought that's gone into that. Like just talking to Nyan Kong earlier in the week, it was like there's a lot of thought that gets put into how players are going to interact with the Gotchiverse. Because there's the Alchemica farming aspect, but then outside of that, there should be other stuff, right? That's kind of what he was saying. There should be some storyline or some narrative that's happening in the Gotchiverse that maybe. Go ahead.
Just like a full MMORPG kind of feel. We want to have quests. We want to have things, a storyline that slowly unfolds over a long period of time. Just like any good game, right? You need something that not only people can, you're not there to just grind XP or grind Alchemica. You're there to see how the story is going to unfold. One of my favorite stories when I was growing up was like playing the Warcraft, and the story of Illidan, and also like the different like I think it was Arthas, when he goes from like turning into a paladin like into a Death Knight. Super cool character arcs, and you get to like experience these character arcs over many campaigns and many expansions. So it's very ambitious to do something like that, and we're gonna try our best, but that's part of the vision.
Well, I mean, there's that aspect of like community building and stuff too. So I wonder if later down the line, it's like we'll be able to create some of
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally expect that the community, it's already happening a little bit, that fan fiction or community generated lore will also play a big part in the story.
Yeah, I bet. So going back to the trailer, one of the other things I was kind of curious about is it seemed, I mean, there's a few structures there that were really interesting to me. There was these like turrets on the towers, at the end, like almost a closing scene. The tops of these towers kind of open up and these turrets come out. Are these going to be operated by players? Like, are players going to be operating these turrets, or are these kind of going to be like automatic, like auto firing turrets?
Yeah, I think the idea is that we want them to be operated by players. I mean, if they don't have a player manning it, they would most likely just be automated. But the idea, I think there's definitely a potential to have players operating them as well.
There were some interesting pieces of equipment. There were these horses marching. I know you actually posted a clip on Aavegotchi, kind of showing this horse, like this really like armored up horse, and then there was like this Aavegotchi on it. It wasn't really an Aavegotchi, though. It was like a statue almost, or like a bigger version of an Aavegotchi. And I thought this was going to be a static structure, but in the Citadel, in that video, you see them actually moving down a road, like in a formation. So are these what are these things? Can you maybe those?
Yeah, I'm gonna find the scene here so people can see the exact second that we're talking about. See, I see the Gotchi moving through. Everyone go while we're chatting about it. Definitely, if you haven't already, go to the video and give it a thumbs up, give it a comment. Keep that algorithm churning. Let's see, the horses, I don't remember them moving, but maybe they are. They're supposed to be kind of statues. I mean, they're there. Well, okay, so on like second 27, right? You kind of see them.
Yeah.
Those ones, I mean, there's like statues in the Citadel that are kind of a tribute to the adepts from the kind of foundation of the Gotchiverse Citadel, and so I don't know how playable like these statues will be, but yeah, they are moving. They're kind of, if you look at second 26, they're moving through the Citadel there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's, statues can come to life. Why not, right? If they can have statues
cool
inside them.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to have this like Trojan horse where you have maybe 5 gotchis inside or 10 gotchis inside operating this thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it allows you to get a lot closer to these big liquidator. I guess.
Well, liquidators are going to have that too as well. So that we have thought about plans for multi-gotchi kind of operated vehicles. That it could be a gotchi, like multiple gotchis or multiple liquidators, kind of like a tank that you just gotta move a little bit slower, but you have but you can unload your gotchis once you get close to your enemy.
Yeah, there were a few different vehicles I saw. The liquidators have almost their own kind of tank. It looks like they're huge. They're huge
Yeah,
liquidators. And I'm assuming, that there's liquidators inside of there operating
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Those,
really
I imagine what those will most likely be, especially they won't necessarily be player controlled, but they'll kind of be more. If you think about like a tower defense where you have waves of uh, zombies or whatever closing in, as a liquidator you could jump into one of these tanks as it's closing in on the Citadel and kind of add your firepower to it, but you might not necessarily be able to play it directly.
Oh, that's so interesting. I mean, there was that, and then there was an aerial vehicle, like a space, almost like a saucer, like a flying saucer. Um,
Yeah,
are, are these going to be like another liquidator based vehicle?
there's a lot of space for, I mean, and this is not going to be like the first great battle. What we kind of
Uh,
did here with this trailer was went it's chronological in a way. So we have obviously the Gotchiverse is kind of happy in the beginning. There's the farming and everything, and then the first stomp of the Liquidator. We're not necessarily. It doesn't mean that this was the first step of the Liquidator. This could be battle number 3. It could be battle number 5. We didn't really specifically specify which battle it is, and so also the Gotchi is going to talk to the Great Tree of Fud. Most likely, this is like if you think about the lore, this would be in the first great battle, because they're going to the tree. The tree is telling them, "Hey guys, I said this prophecy. I told you so. You might not have listened to me." So it's like kind of worried about them. So those are not the adepts, but these are like the descendants of the adepts. These are like the Gotchis that are currently inhabiting the Citadel as it exists today. And then after that, so there's the battle with preparing, but what we see in this like around the 30-second mark isn't necessarily great battle number 1. The liquidators are not going to send their entire invasion force over for the first great battle. We're going to have plenty of time to gear up to that.
okay, well, that's good to know. We can start bolstering our parcels, and to me, it seems like even within the Citadel, before the great battles, it'll be important to kind of have some walls around, even if they're like a deterrent, just to kind of keep other people out. And
Yeah.
unless you want to share your yields, it seems like walls are going to be a big deal in the realm.
Oh, totally.
There might be this dynamic of people who go around smashing walls just to collect alchemica. Maybe people that don't have parcels, or just don't want to like set anything up on their parcel. They'd rather go around, you know, breaking into everyone else's base and stealing their alchemica.
Yeah.
Compared to on the other end of it, there'll be people who might take all their parcels and turn them into, I remember you saying, an estate, and then building just a massive wall all the way around and keeping them out of the whole estate. So that's going to be interesting to see how people create these estates and put their land parcels together. I think that's going to be another kind of interesting thing that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and we're looking to have some info on estates. Kind of the chapter 4 is supposed to cover that this month. We've done a lot of work on that, and so yeah, with the idea is that we'll put out some information on how to build estates, and eventually it will definitely become an in-game game mechanic.
Because I noticed when I was first buying my parcels, the first thing I noticed is there's a wider gap between some parcels compared to other parcels. Some parcels are really close together, other ones are,
Mm-hmm.
quite far apart. So I wonder how that's gonna, if you want to touch on that, that'd be cool. But if not, we can wait for the chapter. But I'm kind of curious to know how people go about like approaching some of that, with different gapping sizes and stuff.
Yeah, we'll have rules on that. I'd have to look it up and do a refresher myself.
Right.
But yeah, there will be a full rule book on what kind of gaps can be applied towards estates and what kind of like basically all the rules related to that.
That's cool. Yeah. No, chapter 4 is going to be really cool. I think it's going to be quite extensive, just like chapter 3 was. So
Yeah.
each one it's a lot of information to absorb. It takes a little while.
Yep. Takes us a lot of time to write it and probably even longer for you guys to absorb it. But yeah, the community's been doing really, really great with putting out some kind of chapters on or videos on helping explain some of the more difficult or kind of more arcane concepts of the game. So definitely looking forward to all more videos on that, especially as we get the game released and people can really see like this is what it's going to look like. Here's the different game mechanics, why they're going to be important.
Yeah, and I mean, me personally, I plan on live streaming a couple hours probably every day just of gameplay. And so that's going to be good to get the word out because once people see us collecting those Alchemica tokens and they're everywhere on the ground,
Yeah.
I think people are really gonna go crazy for it because like I don't maybe there are other games out there, but I don't know any games that are doing it how we are. And in the way where you can kind of collect all your Alchemica and then just still deposit it all on chain in the
Yeah, anything less than a world-class team like can't build this kind of thing. It's
was
very,
this
very, very tough.
yeah, and we've seen time and again, right? Teams put like 3 or 4 months worth of effort of dev work into their project, and I'm kind of learning this with programming too myself. It's like the code might run when you're by yourself there at night and you just run it and you're like, okay, everything's good, it runs. And then it's a whole different thing when you have like 10 people, 100 people, 1,000
Yeah,
people.
scale. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
when
well, it
the
takes
real
servers.
bugs come in.
Yeah. Get those 10 servers to talk back and forth to each other. And then you add in regional differences. Now you have someone in Tokyo trying to play with someone in California. They're across the world. There's like latency issues there. So, there's a ton of different scaling issues that we've been challenged with and are overcoming. It seems like we're making great progress on that. But ultimately, I think I put a tweet out a while back. Speed of light is the ultimate blocker. There's no way to get past the speed of light. There's always going to be like 100 to 120 millisecond difference between people, just because that's how speed of light works.
And so get past the speed of light, you actually almost have to assume where someone's going to be based on their current position, right? Like based on where they're moving to make things
Right.
seem
Yeah.
seamless, probably.
Yeah. That's a lot of games like AAA games are able to do that using kind of tweening, using some physics, and I'm sure we'll eventually get to that. Right now, I don't think we're doing much of that because it's really not that necessary. We're not a first person shooter game, so it's a little bit less. The stakes are a little less high. What we're
Yeah,
mainly interested in is making sure that people can't double pick up their Alchemica. As long as that part is good, then that's the system is fairly solid. and then eventually, you want when you fire a fireball, you want it to hit something. You don't want to see the fireball hitting a gotchi, but it actually didn't hit it. That's always kind of sad. But the good news is that generally, if you're playing if you're in the U.S., most likely the people you're playing with are also going to be in the U.S. because it's your time zone, unless you got people in the middle of the night playing over in Japan. But generally, the latency is lower because it's your time zone.
There will be. It's like, I might wake up one morning and go check up on my base, and it's like got wrecked. I have to start like rebuilding stuff. Is there going to be a significant amount of like repairing that goes on? Like you have to repair your wall, repair your, I don't know, your harvester maybe stops working after a while. Your your lodge maybe needs to get patched up every now and then. Is it going to be like that, or do you actually have to like break it? Like someone has to go and like hit it?
Yeah, we haven't really added too much decay, especially for the harvester and the reservoir, because it's actually happening on chain. So it's more difficult to simulate that, and we didn't really think it was worth doing that. But for things like the Gotchi Lodge or like the teleporter installation that you'll have, there could be an experiment with kind of repairing and decay. Mostly, we're just thinking of for walls. Those will be the main things that you'll be repairing, especially if you're in the grid, because your walls will get destroyed by liquidators.
Is it going to be like you have to wait till a wall is completely destroyed, or will you be able to repair it like when it's partially destroyed?
Yeah, you'll probably be able to. So like the liquidators are attacking it. You may be able to like spend Alchemica or Glitter token like as it's being attacked to repair it, because that's going to be in chain. Those won't be on chain transactions. Those will be in game transactions that you're basically the liquidator is liquidating and you're kind of trying to prevent it from getting in, which while your towers are shooting down at it.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be real time. Let's see. We got quite a nice crowd here. Hey everyone, welcome to the hangout. One thing I did want to go over for this is kind of our hardcore community group here, and I put a post out in the DAO yesterday, which pertains to the ecosystem liquidity that we're going to be basically deploying the Alchemica tokens, and 10% of the token supply is going to go down. It's going to go into a vesting contract, and the idea behind that is we're building tokens into the tokenomics. So once the GAX launches, we will easily have plenty of Alchemica liquidity that we can kind of add into the GAX as kind of an idea of permanent protocol liquidity. So we don't have to be chasing liquidity providers down to ensure that they're giving us liquidity and making it a nice DEX experience for people. So we as Pixelcraft, we don't really want to have that responsibility. Not that we can't handle it, but legally it's better if we really start getting the community more handling things, especially like liquidity provision. And so I put out this post here. You can find it, the DAO Treasury Force extension. I see we got one reply here from Kakusha. Thank you, friend. So the idea here is that we have the DAO Treasury Force, which has 6 signers, I believe, on it currently, and which is fine for smaller amounts of funds because these are all dedicated community members. But when we have such a large amount of funds here, as the ecosystem is going to be, needs to be on a bigger multi-sig. So the idea is that we create a new multi-sig with 15 signers, and this can include the current DAO Treasury Force members. So we would have 9 new signers, and 12 out of the 15 signatures would be required to confirm any transactions. So it's I think it's a very necessary thing, and it might be, it's something that's going to be a bit of a responsibility, because you might there might be a couple transactions at a time that you might need to confirm. But otherwise, it's not really too much of a task. It's really just being on the multi-sig and being available to sign it. And if you have experience with liquidity provision or signing multi-sig, that's preferred. That's great if you have that already, but it's not required. And this could be, if the DAO Treasury Force views this as something that should be compensated. There's also we could look into doing that as well, although that's more up to kind of the community on whether you think this should be a compensated position or not. But yeah, the idea is that this multisig will manage the community's liquidity for the GAX once it's launched. We probably won't really mess too much with QuickSwap initially, because it's going to be a fairly quick turnaround between when we launch Alchemica and then when we launch the GAX. Should be around a month. So I don't think it's really that important that we have a lot of sustained liquidity on QuickSwap before the GAX comes out, and so this would mainly be used on the GAX. Although it's up to the multisig if they wanted to add liquidity on the GAX as well, on QuickSwap as well. So yeah, any questions if you guys have for this? It's a big topic, and kind of one of the first times that we're really giving a significant chunk of responsibility to the community. So I see, okay, a couple people asking about 12 out of 15. Yeah, I mean, it's 9 out of 15 obviously is a lot easier. Part of it is, if you have 9 out of 15, it's just there's more risk of those 9 people collaborating and doing a transaction. All they could really do would be release the funds, and they could release them, and then they could send them somewhere. So that would kind of be the main risk that you would have. It's really just the cost of is it worth giving up your entire reputation in the Aavegotchi community for some FUD? Probably not. But if anyone could be tempted by large amounts. So that's really why we have such a high signing threshold.
Yeah,
maybe
I think to have lots of people signing, I think, right? Like, what would be, I guess there's a risk to having not enough, because you want to make sure that there's always enough people to sign the multi-sig.
Right. And if someone needs to leave, you could always reduce it, or so I guess we're saying, I see a couple comments here. If we lose what happens if we lose 4 people? Like, lose, do you mean like they lose their device or quit the community, I guess? You would I don't think we would lose everyone at one time, so you would probably be able to add new signers on. But yeah, it is something to be considered. Anyone else want to come up and we can talk about this live instead of me reading the messages here? Feel free to raise your hand. Some people aren't necessarily listening to or reading the messages.
There are some interesting points people are making in there, and those are things I think every crypto project needs to think about, is like the security of their funds, how many people are going to sign, and how safe are those people, right? Not only to other people but to themselves, like you got to make sure that they're going to be around, right? That's the other thing, that they're available to sign. But it's kind of cool how you're leaving that to the community to manage, because it really does kind of play into the whole decentralized aspect of everything. And it will be a lot easier to kind of like legitimize Pixelcraft as like their own kind of thing when the community is managing the decks and they're managing liquidity provisions. So it's interesting that way.
Yeah, we're really trying to move more towards the Yearn model, where I think when they first launched, they had I think it was 15, also like a 15 signers or 12 signers before they were able to get a full DAO. I mean, eventually we would want to have this owned by the full DAO, but we're just not quite there yet. And let's see. So the main concern is if you have set it to 12 out of 15 and a couple of your people leave, you're basically unable to get anything through. So if you guys think that maybe 11, what about 11 out of 15 could be a little bit better than 12, 10 out of 15? Just what's that sweet spot where we have maximum responsibility while also being agile?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on that kind of stuff, so I can't say too much, but it seems okay to me as long as those people are available to sign.
Yeah. So, well, I guess I'll finish up with this. If you are interested in being a signer, go to this thread here and just write down your name and a little reason why you would like to be on it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have an election on Snapshot starting about a week from yesterday. We'll create an election on Snapshot, and then people can vote on their favorite candidates to be on it.
Yeah, I think 11
Definitely,
is a pretty good number, just because then you have enough people to be able to remove any signers that just become stagnant or whatever, or missing.
Yeah, missing. Sure. And yeah, geographical diversity is definitely is also nice. This isn't a super urgent multi-sig. It's not like you would be facing any sort of urgent situation where you would need to get everyone on at the same time. It could definitely be done async 24 hours. If you wanted to add some liquidity with some funds, you would just create that transaction, and then within a period of time you could get that signed. And helping, if it were compensated, obviously that would help keeping people interested. So it might be worth the DTF thinking of that. It is kind of work, just especially for the discussion, determining should we add liquidity for this pair, or do we not need this much liquidity for this pair, or things like that. Or it won't just be for the GACs. You could also potentially have some liquidity on other exchanges. You could say, oh, maybe we need some on QuickSwap, maybe we need some on SushiSwap. Probably not. Those don't really need to be priority though.
Hey, I just jumped up real quick because I had a question that I proposed in the chat, but I didn't see it get answered. Are we worried about conflicts of interest between Gotchi Vault managers also being DTF managers?
Are you guys? I haven't really thought about that. What's your thought on it?
Well, I only bring it up because of Bin Laden's, what's it called? The meme he put up of Thanos with the 4 rings. And then the DAO being added in. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Like, they do have a 30% of voting power, 30% of quorum, if I remember correctly, based on Jared from Aavegotchi Stats Twitter post. So having multiple members potentially on the DTF, that could create a conflict of interest that we should probably explore.
Right. So I'm looking at the meme here. So we got Pixelcraft, Aavegotchi, Ghost, and Chi, and Thanos is the vault. I don't quite get it. And then you got the DAO. I don't know if I don't really get the meme, I guess. What's it saying?
I guess it's just control. Like, there's a lot of the Gotchi Vault has a decent amount of control within the Gotchiverse. Not saying necessarily over Pixelcraft or Aavegotchi itself, but it does have such a large chunk of voting power. So by having members on the DTF there is the potential that there's a conflict of interest that the DTF creates. There's just crossover that's dangerous.
Yeah. Well, you have the VLT token is their voting token, right? So they're supposed to be respecting the way that people vote with VLT on all the decisions that they make. That's part of it. So it's not like they're going to throw their entire weight just however they want. I think they're supposed to be using VLT as the voting token. Might be mistaken on that, but that's how.
Yeah, from my understanding, though, that the vault managers are some of the largest investors in the vault. So wouldn't they be earning the majority of the VLT, which would have, they would have voting power, and they're now on the DTF.
Yeah, I do agree that it's better to have less overlap between the different committees or the different task force. But yeah, on the DTF currently, we had two. Well, there's currently two members that applied for it, but then they're basically going to leave because they joined Pixelcraft, and so now it's really down to 6 people. Dr. Wagme, Addison, Backfire Capital, Bowtied Nerd, Deuce Hearts, and Swappy. And I think Dr. Wagme is the only one that is on the DTF. So, I mean, it's a interesting decision. If there's community angst about that, maybe someone can make a DAO thread about it.
Yeah, I only bring it up.
I'm not really gonna have an opinion on it.
Yeah, I only bring it up because of the meme, because I hadn't thought of that prior until I saw that meme, and I'm like, oh my god, like that's so brilliant. So I'll step down now. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, they have a lot of power to get a decision to reach quorum, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to change the direction of a vote. Like, they do have significant power, but I think they don't have 30% of all the voting power of Ghost and Aavegotchis together. They have 30% of quorum, which is different, or whatever the percentage is now. Just getting something to quorum doesn't mean it's going to pass. But yeah, I mean, any kind of guild has that ability to vote as a block. It's pretty inevitable that we'd eventually get some sort of vote delegation in Aavegotchi DAO. So it's kind of a more efficient way of voting. Just we see that happen basically in every kind of DAO. In normal humanity, people like to delegate their votes, it seems like. So let's see. We just finished. Anyone else want to come up and have a discussion about anything else? Been very nice discussion so far, but feel free to come up and have a chat, hang out.
It's interesting what you say about delegated voting too, because how does that affect like the XP? Like last night, Hefe and No Futuristic were talking a lot about like people who are actually interacting with the game more than people who are like not, like, like bot petting was a good example, but just people who are, so when you talk about delegated voting, would it be more important to be an individual voter, or is delegating voting going to affect your XP and things like that? Were kind of the different things they were just batting around or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, I think we want to lean more as much as we can towards incentivizing individual participation rather than participation as a block. But it can be, it's hard you don't want to start creating double standards for example, like Orden DAO or various different DAOs, they have lots of gotchis, and they vote as a single entity, as a single wallet. And so when we process the XP for that wallet, any gotchi in those wallets is eligible for XP. And that's because they're voting as one wallet, and that wallet contains all the gotchis. So if you say, oh well, the gotchi vault shouldn't be eligible because it's a vault, then that's not really fair to, or it's like it's kind of double standard that you're creating. And then the question becomes, well, what's the cutoff? How many should it be per wallet before they get excluded and they need to vote, individually? So that's we don't want to really have double standards if possible. That's why we haven't really taken much action on that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
There's a difference where, for example, attending an event, filling out a type form, we do require, if you want to get XP for your gotchis, the vault, or we did kind of well, the way we're doing it is the whoever comes and attends with that wallet will get it. But we did discuss with the vault and say it's better if your members come and attend. So it's because we wanted to know, we do know that we want individuals to come in and attend these events. If the Gotchi Vault is attending them for everyone, then why even do a type form? But again, it's like having these double standards, which I don't personally like. It'd be better if we could just have one standard for everyone. But as a wallet gets very big, as they have a huge amount of gotchis. It's pretty clear that it's not one person attending it.
Yeah, that's why that mixed approach really works, of having things where it has to be an individual and then other things where it doesn't have to be an individual. And then, individuals can make their own decision on whether or not they want to go that extra mile, but it does incentivize the people that do.
Yeah. I should just mention all these ways that we're discussing of, incentivizing voting or attending events. Ideally, everything can just happen in the Gotchiverse, and then it's one gotchi, your one vote. Then we don't have to worry about one account having a bunch of gotchis. It's going to be gotchi based. That's what we're trying to get to. Trying to get to a mode where it's really one gotchi is voting for itself, and that gotchi would receive the XP for voting.
It's funny you say because like with all the guild stuff, I've been saying this to people in different groups, that I think it's funny how like everybody kind of thinks of themselves as one person, but all of your gotchis, depending on your like set of wearables and their traits and your guild associations, you have to be political in multiple ways. You can't just think about one gotchi. You got to think about all your individual gotchis' needs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Each gotchi is going to have like different amount of voting power based on its BRS, based on what wearables it has equipped, and there's a lot to think about. So, and also just like for attending events, if you attend the event, you're attending it as your gotchi, and you can lend out that gotchi to someone else, and you can hope that they're going to attend that event, or you could have like 80 tabs open, which if your laptop can handle it, until we are able to crack down on that, but which we eventually will, because we don't really want people having 80 tabs open. Eventually, the idea gets the space where one gotchi is being played by one player, which we are moving towards with gotchi lending.
Well, the good thing is Aavegotchi, well, the nature of what we're going to be doing in the realm is not an auto battler like with other games. They're auto battlers, right? So you kind of set up how the battle's going to go, and then you kind of leave it, set it and forget it, and then it's battling, and then it gets the reward at the end if your character wins. And so what they can do is kind of with Axie Infinity is someone could go out and buy like 25 phones and like hook them up in like an array, basically, like and have them all kind of hooked up, and then have your teams and have 24 teams playing this card game. It does involve some pushing buttons and stuff, but it's for the most part it's automatic when you're, picking which cards you're going to play and whatnot. You can even, program a bot to do all this for you. And then they
Yeah.
have like 24 of these playing at the same time, and they're earning all this SLP token, but then it's very inflationary on the token. The good thing is, I guess, we have a lot of mechanics built into the tokenomics that maybe wouldn't allow that to happen so easily. But I could see it happening if we had some sort of an auto battling mechanic to our game, but we don't. So yeah, it's good in that sense.
Yeah. There will be an ability to bot. Like you could theoretically set up your Gotchi with a bot that will read the screen and it will move around, searching blindly for Alchemica. And you might be able to read, oh, there's Alchemica on the screen. Let me go towards that Alchemica. That's basically what a bot could do. And we have some ideas for how we can kind of make it a little bit more strategic. So the bot would have to think a lot more to make the correct decision.
I was listening to this interesting podcast last night about this guy talking about AI and how there's some AIs now, like there's this one called GPT-3 where this thing actually is creating itself now to the point where people don't really understand what it's doing anymore. It's just like creating stuff, and like it's not necessarily a bad thing that it's building itself, but like human beings can no longer understand everything that it's doing, like why it's doing what it's doing. And it's interesting how AIs are building themselves, and so I wonder, when AIs come to bots, like botting in games like this, is it going to be a lot harder to prevent, or are we just going to have to learn to live among these AIs, right? Are they going to be like, how are they going to behave? Because ultimately they're going to behave on their own. There's some programming, but ultimately eventually it becomes its own thing. And so that's going to be another interesting thing that maybe won't happen for quite a while, but there's already been like huge advancements in that field of AI and this like machine learning and whatnot.
Yeah, it's sometimes it can be tough to distinguish, and really the only way to, well, there's a couple things you can do. You can have CAPTCHAs that randomly appear that they don't look like CAPTCHAs, but they are CAPTCHAs, and that would be one way to prevent bots. It would just pop up, and as you're playing the game, it would just randomly, a little thing would pop up. You have to answer, and if the bot can't do that properly, it would get thrown in Gotchi jail. But that can be a little bit stressful if you're playing the game and suddenly you're getting ready to pick up some Alchemica and suddenly a pop-up comes up. You have to answer it. It's pretty horrible. And so the other way is just to design the game in a way that it is harder. The bots don't have like an optimum route that they can always take. So they don't necessarily play at the optimum skill level of a human player. That's more of a efficient approach, but it's harder to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting with the pop-up. Imagine, the pop-up shows up and you click the wrong button or something, and now you're in Gotchi jail with like all these drone Gotchis just walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone asked
the other day.
Just want to go to a question here I saw from Bin Laden about there's I was watching the Twitters today as well, that big sale of Yuga Labs buying the punks and Meeba. It's super crazy. That's wild. Did anyone know how much they paid for them, or like what the details were? I didn't see any details on it, but it is pretty interesting. And the cool thing is, yeah, they're with the Bored Ape. If you own it, you have the commercial right to that specific Bored Ape, right? You can make like a brand around it, or like a podcast or a TV show with that specific ape.
Yeah, and I think
we've thought about this a lot. Aavegotchis I think we have the potential to do that, and the reason we haven't yet is because the Aavegotchi it's not like a PFP in the sense that what you see is always what you're going to have. So you have your Aavegotchi. I have my Coderdan Gotchi, But what is that Coderdan Gotchi? It's an Aave base Aavegotchi, Aave collateral with a beard on it, and it's got a milkshake and the red plaid. So like, but I could take those off. I could unequip them and move them to someone else, and then I still have the base Gotchi, but it's like if you try to design an IP license around the Gotchi, there is no one specific Gotchi, and that's the kind of the issue that we've been thinking about a lot. What does it mean to own the rights to a Gotchi? Because we would like to see more experimentation. At the same time, owning for Pixelcraft, having the commercial license to Aavegotchi is very, very important. If we just give it away, then there can be a lot more creativity, but then Pixelcraft, we would lose a big part of like our value as an entity. So we don't want to just do that willy-nilly, but we do want to have ways that people can use the IP without necessarily giving it out. And so we are working on a new IP kind of licensing contract. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll have to pay any money or we'll get any cut of it. It's just to have a contract that people who want to use the IP can sign. That would just say, you don't own this IP. It's still owned by Pixelcraft, but you feel free to use it in this specific case. And it's just, if we don't do that, then we basically lose the rights to our IP because then the courts will look at it and say, well, you had this opportunity to protect your IP and you didn't, so obviously you don't really care about your IP, but we do.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's something actually that was very kind of controversial with the crypto punks. The OG crypto punks was they had said earlier that they wouldn't have any IP rights, and a lot of CryptoPunk holders were really upset about that, being that they spent all this money on them. But now that they're part of Yuga Labs, they will actually be getting their IP rights for their CryptoPunk. So that's kind of cool.
Which, I think it like for the PFPs, it definitely makes perfect sense that you own this unique PFP, you can't unequip it, so it is what it is. With Aavegotchi, it's a little bit different because you can just mix and match as much as you want. One idea I had would be, like, what if you could just bake your wearables into your Aavegotchi forever? Like, if you're willing to go that mile, maybe we could say, well, okay, then you've taken that step. Like, your Aavegotchi literally can't be changed at this point. It's baked in. So maybe you can make a brand around it now. That would be kind of one idea.
I see there's some people, or there were some people that had their hands up. Master Yang has his hand up.
Oh, there. Sure. Oh. I wish Discord had a way you could look at, like, it could show you how many people wanted to speak while you're in like another channel. That'd be pretty cool.
What's going on?
Yeah, they need to upgrade a few things. Hey, Master Yang, what's going on?
Hey, Master Yang.
Hey, Coderdan. What's up, Anthony? What's up, Pepe? Thanks for having me up. I just, you brought up an interesting topic about, basically the wearables constantly changing on the Aavegotchis, and that being kind of like difficult to, understand rarity from a marketplace standpoint. And this is actually the exact problem that another PFP project had back in summer. I don't know if anybody's heard of it here. It's called Polymorphs, and they're like these little ugly creatures. And from the universe, like XYZ team or whatever. And what they wanted to do essentially was to make a rarity based upon how like the PFP changed over time, and you could upgrade your PFP, you could add like different wearables to the PFP and so forth. And different marketplaces and different rarity tools just couldn't understand that kind of concept, and for them to kind of cater to that specific PFP was just too outside like essentially how things were organized, like with most mainstream PFPs today, which is just like, hey, it's a static kind of fixed rarity for each PFP, and all that is always going to stay the same, and everything can be fed into different third-party rarity tools, etc. So that's why they created like their own marketplace, actually, which is interesting because it's launching next week, or
Okay.
maybe even this weekend. So I highly recommend you like Coderdan if you want to look into it. It's XYZ. And they thought about this problem like very deeply, from my understanding. They've wrote some blog articles on it. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up. I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time, but the fact is that like I see these almost in the same way. Like we're changing the wearables constantly. We're reorganizing for rarity farming constantly. And I think that like, there's going to be there's going to need to be marketplaces that understand, and third-party rarity tools that understand that difference. And they actually are making their own rarity tool, like just for understanding the differences in that. So it's just an interesting like thing you brought up, and like it clicked in my brain for a second. So, just wanted to kind of like put that out there.
Yeah. I also there's another one. It was like Ethlings. Also, I think they stopped doing their project though. But it's definitely a different model, because where you have these like composable NFTs, which is what we have, where you can kind of switch it around all the time. But we didn't go like we have a little bit of fixed traits. Like we did include the eyes as something that can't change on the Aavegotchi, and it's obviously that the community, some investors have kind of latched on to that, which is really cool. The double myths, and so Aavegotchis do have kind of an intrinsic PFP in a way, but it's not as fixed as like a normal PFP.
Yeah, that
They're
was
kinda in
like
the
the
middle.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing, is that like part of the problem was that like on these mints that were happening with PFPs, you'd have bots that would just bot the living crap out of the rarest ones right from the get-go, because
Yeah.
everything was fixed. And that's kind of why like having like a dynamic aspect to the rarity is interesting, because like it just makes things more competitive, makes things more random. And overall it their thesis is, and I kind of believe it to a certain extent, is that rarity shouldn't be necessarily like only static. You can have hybrid kind of like aspect to it, and that's what I love about Aavegotchi, is that you do have fixed traits, you have rarity upgrades and so forth, and all that can be changed depending on how competitive you are, like how much proof of work you want to put into your PF, well, not your PFP, but your character, or your Gotchi rather.
Yeah, that's totally true.
I was just thinking about what you were saying, as far as this IP and branding. You can create these Polygon badges now through this dApp called Migo, and it's on Polygon, and it's kind of like POAP. You can create a badge and send it to a wallet, but then once you send that badge to that wallet, it's bonded to that wallet. Like you can't trade it. You can't like give it to someone else. And so it's like it's a really good way to not only keep track of where someone has been or what event they went to, because they can't give that proof of attendance to someone else. But I think it'd be interesting if something like that was implemented in the Gotchiverse for like these player created wearables. We talked about non-BRS wearables. Perhaps they could be sent to a Gotchi's pocket, or to a Gotchi, so it goes in their pocket. And once it's there, maybe it's bonded to that Gotchi. So that's that Gotchi's like base outfit if they choose to put it on. It's like bonded to them. And then that way it's like, I mean, in a sense, it wouldn't have market value, but it would have clout. You'd be like, okay, I did this thing, or I was here, or like, look, like X copy created this like crazy shirt, and I'm like, my Aavegotchi can wear it. It's like part of my Aavegotchi. So it's like adding value to the Aavegotchi. That could be another cool way maybe to approach it, and like still add value to these things without actually diluting the current wearables pool.
Yeah, some people have talked about the idea of like of like an aesthetic layer. You'd have your BRS wearables equipped, but then you could also have like a cool skin on top of it, but that you could be wearing your Sergey plaid, but you could also have like some sort of like cool skin aesthetic wearable on top of it. I guess that's kind of what you're saying, but but it would be, you're saying it could be like fixed to the Aavegotchi, like it'd be bonded to it. You can never, you got your favorite shirt, you can never take it off.
Well, I mean, you you could take it off. You could take it off. You just have to store it in your pocket. Like, how much stuff
Right.
can a pocket? Probably quite a bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's a tricky thing for sure, because we do Gotchis want to be wearing the same thing all the time? Probably not, and that's why it is tricky to, like, what is a Gotchi? It's stats, it's its eyes, and then whatever clothes it has on it, kind of what makes it up. But it's also where it's been, what event it's voted in. Well, there's a lot that goes into it, which
Yeah,
is
I was
Yeah.
sad to cover up my Gotchi eyes. I had to do it for
Yeah.
rarity farming though.
yeah. I had a weird one. I was equipping one of my Gotchis. This is like, it's probably one of the weirdest looking designs. I have the alluring eyes on top of the mask, because the hero mask is a face wearable, and then the eyes are on top of it, and so it looks pretty messed up. It's probably those eyes are tough, because they have like a whole white section where they cover up whatever is under them. So there's like part of the mask is kind of peeking out. It looks pretty weird. That's the difficulty with having these composable NFTs.
Are there going to be like customized like skins you can make for your own Aavegotchi in the future? I apologize. I'm sure I think I've heard it before, but just wanted to ask again.
Yeah, the model we want to kind of follow for that is have a certain number of wearables. It could be like BRS and non-BRS, of like a budget that we can add each season, like each quarter, and then people can submit their designs, and then the community can vote on their favorite ones to get added for that season. Because if we just open it up to everything, then obviously we know what we're going to get with that. The level of the quality of design of the Aavegotchi is just going to go down a lot, and people are, as you're walking through the Gotchiverse, you're just be like, what is that?
Yeah, it's going to be like a Gotchi dicker butt or something.
Yeah. And, it's just not like, it's not going to be a good look for the game. It's just no other, like, I don't know. It'd be a weird vibe. I mean, if someone submits a dick butt and the community votes it in, like, wow, what can we do?
It's true. Like, there needs to probably be a little bit of like almost like a Apple App Store vibe to it, like little quality control. Like, but at the same time, it's still open to where you can continually submit, different proposals of different skins. I think that's not a bad approach.
Yeah, we want to have a little bit of a quality control on what's coming in. At the same time, we want people to be creative. So there'll probably be some guidelines, and just follow the guidelines, make the wearable, and then we'll have like a quarterly vote where the community, we can have like all 100 different wearables that are however many are created in that season, and we could pick a certain amount of them to be actually created for that season.
That'd be pretty cool. Like, I wonder, do you think it might be something where also it would be based on like an NFT from like another community? Like, let's say if I had like a CryptoPunk, I could bring it in like to Aavegotchi as a punk skin if it was approved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, potentially. That someone could create like a CryptoPunk, like what is a skin? Like, we wouldn't make it probably look like a CryptoPunk, but you might have like an accessory from CryptoPunks. I don't know if you're talking about like a whole skin. Then I don't know. Maybe at that point, kind of crossing the line about what is an Aavegotchi and what's another PFP. It looked a bit weird.
Yeah, I guess like maybe that wasn't the best example. Maybe something like I don't know, like a dead fella, and then when you bring in that dead fella, like you just get like a zombie skin for your Aavegotchi.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of potential with that. We haven't quite gotten to the point where we can open it up yet, but once the Gotchiverse is kind of online and moving, we'll have a little bit more of dev bandwidth to start opening that up a little bit more.
Sweet.
Yeah, last night I don't know how functional this would be, but I had a cool idea that what if you could mod wearables with Alchemica and glitter, because then it would kind of like create a sync as well as increasing rarity. You could take a common item and mod it up to be something more than common.
Yeah, like a common fireball, and then kind of what are those things in like crests, I think they call them in like Diablo or WoW, which like gems and a sword. Is it kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, something like, or I was thinking kind of more like I can't even think of what game does this now, but like where you can basically level up your weapon kind of thing. You can you could take it and add these things to it to make it a level 2 fireball.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
It's a little bit complex because the wearables are 1155s. They're not really fungible.
Right,
We'd have to, I think, if we want to do that, we'd have to kind of overhaul what wearables are, which isn't impossible, but it would be, we'd have to basically like create a custom wearable when you did that.
Yeah, you'd probably have to
Like,
burn the original to get the new one kind of thing.
yeah, but that's a cool idea for sure. I think as things evolve, that could become a possibility where we'd have to have the Aavegotchi being able to hold another ERC 721, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to see if you do some late game quest that took a lot of effort, and maybe you had to spend a significant amount of Alchemica. Maybe you take your common fireball and you go to like an altar or something, and maybe you get like an enchanted fireball. You know, it's like a little bit better. Like it has like another ability that a regular fireball doesn't. I
Yeah.
think that'd be kind of cool.
That's funny. Somebody a few weeks ago was saying it would be great to play as a raffle, and I was like, well, if you could play as a raffle, couldn't you play as a shirt?
That's funny.
Will the raffles have like any other additional function in the game? Because I saw again going back to that trailer, we see like a bunch of raffles like leaving the citadel at one scene, and they're
Yeah.
like look like they're going out to battle or something, like they've been sent off.
Part of that is just imagination, but we do have some ideas for what Robbers can do. And
It's just like such a unique character, and same with the
yeah, they
Cess
are really
Butterfly
cool.
too. Actually,
Yeah, definitely pets. We want them. It won't happen. It won't be immediate, but we do want them to like follow behind you, so they're not just like glued to the side of the Aavegotchi. They can kind of do their own thing around the Aavegotchi. Maybe even run around and like pick up Alchemica for you.
oh, that would be so cool. I'm like looking forward to seeing how my Aavegotchis will play with all their stats, because right now we've all been speculating around the stats, and I know the stats maybe might get tweaked, but with what we have now, it's just it's interesting to see kind of like these archetypes developing for like these different Aavegotchis that we have.
Yeah, speaking
I
of
realized-
stats, tomorrow there's going to be a meeting on that, I believe, it'll be another epic traits discussion. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I feel like I have an army of rangers right now because they're all high brain Aavegotchis. But that, like you said, you know, that could all change. So I'm not like holding my breath for anything right now. And you know, we'll see probably some better, more concrete finalization, and then I'll probably speculate a little bit more on the traits. That's kind of why I haven't really made a video around traits, because like I don't want to release a video explaining all the traits, and then it'll be really confusing for people if the traits change
Sure.
in any way.
Yeah,
then-
that's kind of same where we are too. We haven't really put out any content on chapter 2 because there are quite a few things that might change in that chapter based on the community feedback. But I love They Live. That's a great movie. I love that movie. The classic. Yeah. Also, the leaderboard idea. We will have some kind of a proposal for the community on that as well, related to that I think in last week's hangout, I was talking a little bit about the guild channeling model and potentially moving to more of a leaderboard model. So I can it'd be great to get some feedback while we're still formulating this idea. But the main gist would be in last week's discussion, I was talking about we could have leaderboards, and whichever guild had the highest amount of glitter for a specific wearable could be eligible. But we have another idea, which would be kind of like almost a rarity farming leaderboard, and basically the top 200 or 250 guilds would be eligible for the guild channeling per week, and whichever guilds spent the most glitter within the game during that period would basically be topping that leaderboard. So what this does is it incentivizes guilds obviously to LP and participate in the economy, and then spend their glitter in game on things like aesthetics for their guild or potions, basically anything within the game. And any gotchi that's part of that guild would contribute to the guild ranking. I like to think of it as like in Harry Potter, if you're a member of Gryffindor and you do something good, Gryffindor gets the points for that. Or if you do something bad, then Gryffindor gets their points knocked. So it'd be similar. Like if you're a member of the Fireball Guild, the Gotchi Fireball Guild is a specific Gotchi lodge on a parcel, and you're a member of that one, then when you spend glitter in game, it would get added to the total for that guild. That would be added up each week. And so at the end of each week, we would have this leaderboard, and that would determine which guilds are able, not only able, but how much they would be rewarded. So we could play a little bit with the slope of the curve. For the number one guild might have like a 2x amount of their base rate that they would be channeling from, compared to maybe the number 200, which would maybe be the base rate or even a little bit lower than it. So it would give more incentive to that number one guild to really to spend like as much as possible, because they're trying to, it's worth it for them at that point to do that. So we're gonna have we'll have a more in-depth write-up of it, but that's kind of the gist of it. Tommy Gotchi says, what about Gotchis being in multiple guilds? So yeah, so your Gotchi will be able to be in up to 7 guilds. And so we did some thinking on that, and originally the intuition was to split the reward split the amount between all the guilds that you're in. So if you're in 3 guilds and you spent 100 glitter, 33% would go to each guild. But actually, it doesn't really seem to be ideal to do that. It's actually ideal to give that 100 to each guild, and it just I'd have to go over that a little bit and go over the reasoning for that. But we did discuss that quite a bit. It seems to be preferable to give that same amount to all the guilds. It's better for the gotchis because there's more of a reason for leveling up. Like if you don't distribute it to all 3, you're actually penalizing gotchis for being in multiple guilds, which is something we really wouldn't want to do. That's one of the main reasons. But yeah, if you're in multiple guilds, you're actually a very in-demand gotchi. It's giving more value to the gotchi for being in multiple guilds, because suddenly this gotchi is in 7 guilds and it's a big spender. It's going to do really well for whatever guild it's in.
That's a really interesting mechanic, because it also, in a way, the way I'm thinking of this is it seems like it's pretty fair, because you could have a large guild that's not utilizing all their gotchis as effectively compared to maybe a smaller guild that is using like all their gotchis all the time, and they're harvesting lots of yields and stuff. they might get the boost compared to even the larger guild that's not fully utilizing everything.
Yeah, exactly. This really, it creates this kind of cool market without having to have an auction. It creates a cool market for like which gotchis and which guilds are basically spending the most glitter, which is it's a positive behavior that we want in the economy anyway. And one criticism would be like, well, once my guild will never be able to get on top because we weren't in the lead from the beginning, and now we've lost our advantage. But with this system, one other thing I didn't mention, but it's part of the system, would be there would be like a kind of a curve as the week progresses. The benefit, the number of points you would get per glitter would slowly go down. So if you spend a bunch of glitter right at the beginning of the week, like at midnight or whatever, you would get more points than if you spent that same glitter 3 days or 7 days, 6 days into the week. And so that will effectively prevent guilds from, hoarding a bunch of glitter and then spending it right at the last minute to snipe the leaderboard. You'd be able to you'll want to spend as much as you can as early as possible to get the most points. So that'll be what was that?
I said I previously missed that a little bit. It's actually based on spending the glitter, not earning the glitter. You're actually the leaderboard's based on spending, right?
Yeah. The leaderboard is like how much, because guilds are basically, you're receiving this glitter for providing the liquidity for the GACs. That's kind of the main way that you receive it. So you don't necessarily have to buy it, although you could buy it, I guess, if you wanted to, but you don't necessarily have to. So it's kind of like with friends. The highest ROI comes from just staking as much ghost as possible, getting those friends, and then entering them into the raffle, and getting a huge ROI from that. So this would be kind of a similar system, but there's much more utility for the glitter in this system, because you're spending it, you're not burning it, but you're using it in game in your guild. You're making your guild better. You can build like cool things within your guild interior, or you could spend it on anything, public transportation, potions, whatever you want. But any spending you do within the game would tally towards your guild's total.
What are your thoughts on?
Go ahead. Finish that out.
Yeah.
To finish that out. So, as a guild, you would want to spend as much as you can as early in the week, and also if you were a guild, you're like a smaller guild, you're worried that you can't compete against the bigger guilds. Well, it's not that you can't compete, but you would have to wait for your shot. You'd basically have to hoard a lot of glitter and then use as much of it as possible within like the shortest amount of time in the week that you've chosen. That's kind of what you'd want to do. You could get some like high spender gotchis to join your guild. That would be another way. There would be various strategies that you could do if you wanted to like select a specific week. You might not be able to get every week, but you could really go hard one week and top the leaderboard or get on the leaderboard for that week.
Yeah, it's going to definitely, increase, I don't know if competition is the right word, but like, guilds catering to big spenders of glitter. So interesting mechanic overall.
I was going to ask, what are your thoughts on staking for friends? As we're rolling out this glitter staking mechanism, there's going to be a lot of people moving their ghost off the friends contracts into the glitter staking contracts for that. For the Alchemica staking contracts, I think, because you'd be essentially staking in pairs, right? Ghost and whatever.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a lot of people moving over to that to get this glitter token, which has high utility in terms of like, it's a very spendable token. You can use it for a lot of things. So do you think that's going to affect how the raffles play out after that? Or are you thinking maybe friends, the way friends are used or produced is going to change. Maybe it's more based on gameplay, or maybe friends are gone altogether. Maybe it's replaced by glitter. Like, have you thought about any of that stuff?
Yeah, we posted that a couple days ago that we are thinking of that. It seems almost at this point that glitter would be a perfect replacement for friends. We don't really we would really wouldn't need them that much anymore, because now we have a pure utility token in glitter that it's going to be very highly valued, and so it totally makes sense to replace single staking Ghost, which is nice but doesn't provide that much economic benefit to the overall game. It's nice, but it feels like a very V1 kind of mechanic. And so what you would be doing is we could still offer maybe a single staking Ghost option, but you probably wouldn't earn as much glitter as you would for doing the Alpine. There will not be a 1-to-1 swap between friends and glitter for sure. I don't think so, because one reason we thought about making friends a token a while back, but there's already so much of it out there. It's just like it would be a ridiculous airdrop to do that. It would be wild. It doesn't seem like the best way to go about that. I mean, before we did that, we would definitely want to have one big like epic raffle where people could spend all the friends that they wanted. We could have lots of parcels, wearables, whatever. That would be a big huzzah to finalize the friends. And then after that raffle, we would then switch over to glitter as the main reward token for staking Ghost.
Yeah, well, I see a number of events that could possibly, be used. Like, we still have another land raffle we'll do eventually. Mm-hmm. And then eventually after that, I really do feel like Haunt 3 is people are gonna start asking for it sooner than most people think, because they're just talking to YGG the other day, Yield Guild. They have just Axie Infinity players, like one of their games, they have 20,000 scholars, active scholars, and we have 20,000 gotchis. So like literally one guild could absorb all the gotchis if the proposition was there for that. I feel like a lot of these larger guilds that have got involved have not deployed all their capital. Like they haven't really deployed like their whale capital. It's like from what I've experienced talking to guilds like Blackpool, Meta Guild, YGG, they have investment arms, and they go out and invest in smaller cap games, and they'll go out and invest like little pools of capital in like maybe 5 different games, and then their main ones that have been doing really well for a while, that's where the majority of their funds go. So like those funds have not been deployed, I feel like, towards getting Aavegotchi related assets. Not yet anyways, because just like us, everybody's waiting to see what the yield is going to be in Alchemica terms for an Aavegotchi, and what kind of model will be the most sustainable for that, and blah blah, all that stuff, right? And so until those answers are there and then concrete, I would imagine someone that has a lot of capital is not going to deploy all that till they're really confident that their return is going to be like really good.
Yeah.
And so at that point they'll ape in, and probably the price of Aavegotchis will become almost unattainable. Like that started happening with before Haunt 2, the price of a Haunt 1 closed portal, I think, it peaked out at like 2,800 Ghost. So, and they're nowhere near that now, but it was getting to a point where most people don't have $6,000 to spend on a one portal. So it's like, okay, we needed to introduce 20,000 new ones to get that involvement, to get that participation back up. And so that might happen again, but like on a larger scale. Like we might need more gotchis. So
it's definitely going to be interesting, and we're going to have the market basically telling us we'll have to interpret the market, but the market will be telling us if we need more gotchis by the lending mechanism. Like if we're at 25,000 or 20, however many gotchis we have, 20,000. Like if every portal is open, or like 99% of portals are all open, and there's gotchis out there, usage of gotchi lending is saturated at 24,000 gotchis being lended all the time. I think that'd be a pretty clear signal that the market wants more gotchis at that point. But if we're not quite there yet, then I think it'd be dangerous to add more when there's not, like, we've tried this before, it didn't really work out, and so it's better to be a little bit more conservative, I think, unless the market really there's a strong demand.
Yeah, there's enough indicators to get a nice read from the market on that. And after 2 haunts, I'm sure, you guys over at Pixelcraft have a pretty good kind of beat on that. And it shouldn't be too difficult to know when the right time to pull that trigger is going to be. It'll just be pandemonia. And it's going to be a balance between, existing holders wanting to maintain the value of their gotchis and portals and those, and the demand, and just like beating down the door from, guilds, et cetera, that just need more gotchis overall. So, just gotta, I don't think now's that time, but, I could see like us going into like gotchi summer, and it's going to get pandemonia again.
Yeah. Hopefully the overall NFT and the crypto markets will hold up through the summer, and it seems pretty good. I'm not too bearish at this point. I don't really see any huge bearish indicators. Just normal stuff right now, which is kind of sideways market, which is fine. But as long as if we could just stay in this kind of market, then we'd be great. I think we're gonna launch, and there'll be a lot of interest.
I mean, I always, the market can make people go crazy if they're focused on price, but I just try and focus on the fundamentals, right? Like, I don't really care what's going on I mean, I do to some extent, but for the most part, unless, you're walking away from the project and Sergey Nazarov says, fuck Chainlink and I'm not doing this anymore. And, Stanny says, I'm over Aave. I don't need to build this anymore. Then I'm gonna be worried, right? But even when the market's down, everybody's building. Like Chainlink's doing their thing, Stani, and they're doing some crazy things in their ecosystem, including us, right? And so those are the things I'm really stoked for, because it's only a matter of time before the price reflects all that. And right now there's a disparity, right, between what people are building and creating and the future value of things, and compared to what the price is on the market, what people are willing to pay for something.
Yeah, I mean, I think even like NFT season last May proved that even if the market's down, little things can have a run up. So I could see this having a huge run up even if the rest of the market's not looking good.
Yeah, like little hot pockets like within the NFT space. It's always going to be like that. And it's going to be hard to ever see like a bear, in my opinion, especially like, like you saw, like, with that DeFi kind of like crash, I think in 2017, we just like the market overall has matured to a point where there's infrastructure, there's actually real value behind some projects. There's like real utility behind some projects. So I think there's going to be pockets of bear markets and then pockets of bull markets. And, it's going to be a constant, healthy ecosystem of like being able to surprise the market with value. And that's what I'm excited about. I think there's a lot of value that's buried here still that, it's deep. You have to go look for it. But when you discover it, it's just like, completely, it's like a diamond in the rough. That's what I love about Aavegotchi.
Yep, 100%.
A lot of these.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to kind of change the subject, so if you got something on that, go ahead.
Looks like we got ourselves a Canadian standoff.
I'm good. Okay, well, I was just going to get back to the lodges for a second, Coderdan. Like, I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
One, I'll ask the least complicated one first. What kind of installations on the inside are we looking at? Like, any hints you can give us there?
You mean in the Gotchi
Like
Lodge?
furnishings, yeah.
Yeah, those will be. We haven't really fleshed out all the schematics for the interior. We have a couple design docs that we do have, but I mean it's gonna look pretty cool. I think from all the other things that we built, we're gonna make those things pretty fancy, and it could be what my idea is that you could have basic furniture that comes with like different levels of Gotchi Lodge. So you might have your elk on the wall, or you might have a basic NFT display inside the interior, like with a level 3, or level 1 to level 3. As you go up in the Gotchi Lodge, we'll give you cooler and cooler furniture within your lodge. But you could we'll also have in-game furniture that you can put on your lodge as well, and those would cost glitter. So people could basically guild members could purchase those for the guild to be able to put up within the guild, and that would contribute to their leaderboard for the guild channeling.
Cool. And yeah, and before, like, when you were talking about the leaderboard, would there also be that third mechanism of like in-game spending counting a little more than other types of glitter spending?
Yeah, so like if you spend glitter to speed up a parcel, I don't know if it will count it as more. I don't know if that maybe, but I mean it's all the same glitter really. So really, however you spend it, it's kind of I would view it kind of as the same, unless do you think there's a good reason for like counting them differently? If it's more about how early do you spend it in the game.
Okay, cool. So then my more complicated lodge thing was about, I don't know if you've ever used like Gather Town, but
Yeah, we actually chatted with them very, very, very early on.
Oh,
Tried to, we wanted to actually do a Web3 version of Gather Town. They really weren't that down with it though, so we had to kind of part ways. But
well,
yeah,
that was
they're
kind
cool. I
of my
like Gather
question.
Town.
Yeah. Will that happen like in the lodge? Will you have like private booths? And I mean, for the audience like that don't know, like in Gather Town, you can kind of do a stage setup where you can have speakers that get the room, and then you can have private booths where the people in those booths can hear themselves, but not other people can't hear them. So will there be?
Yeah, there'll definitely be. Yep, you'll definitely have different rooms in your like, especially as you get to the higher level Gotchi Lodge, you'll have special rooms. You could have gated NFT access. So you might have certain NFT holders can only enter certain rooms, and definitely will be things like gated access like that, and stages and all that.
Very cool.
We're not really going to go the way that GatherTown did with they're kind of more B2B focused now, like focused on teams and like having like virtual meetings. I think it's an interesting idea. They've really optimized for like basically Zoom being like a Google Meet call with kind of some tools and stuff. We're not really going to optimize for that. We're going to more optimize for showing off your guild's cool swag and your history and just kind of the vibes inside the guild.
Yeah, my thing was more about the practicality of like 100 people in a room trying to talk over each other.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, guild voice chat is something we definitely want to have. That is, voice chat is pretty difficult technology, so that's going to come a little bit later, but we do want to eventually launch that.
Cool.
Guys, I gotta take off. Got some things I gotta do this morning, some errands I gotta run with the wife. But thank you for inviting me up, Coderdan, Hefe, Anthony. Great to see you guys, and great to see everybody in here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Take care. That's really interesting, some of the things you were saying about the lodge. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be like a social hub for a lot of people to gather in. And the fact that you say, the inside of it is going to feel much larger than what the structure looks like on the outside. tells me there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do very like creative things on the inside. Like you were saying, Anthony, with placing different types of furniture and like installations almost kind of within
Mhm.
your lodge.
Yeah, it'll feel much more like a normal, like I don't know if you guys play the World Wide Web, but similar to it'll feel more like a room builder, where these won't be on-chain transactions. They're gonna be they won't be on-chain NFTs that you'll need to buy. They'll be more like in-game purchases that because there's gonna be a lot of them. There's like everything you place in your lodge will basically be like on it'll be there until you remove it. So won't be on chain, but and these won't be a lot. They're not going to cost a lot. They're really more like micro purchases of just using your glitter to purchase like cool swag for your guild.
And there might be probably limited edition stuff too. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yep, for sure.
I mean, I imagine I've been planning out kind of what I'm going to do with my parcels, and I have parcels kind of scattered all around the realm, and I'm really looking what are some of the things that maybe I should consider like when I want to do that? Like would I have to build a certain installation? Is there a like certain amount of mana or like you said action points I think that I need to be able to do that? Like what are some of the things that I'd have to consider if I wanted to move across the Gotchiverse like quickly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are planning to have like a transportation system. However, I do feel like it'd be more interesting if we as the devs, like we create the tools for the community to kind of build that stuff instead of building it all out. And that could be a really interesting sync for glitter as well. Like everyone's gonna have normal roads, but I think it'd be cool if you could upgrade. You could spend some glitter on a road to upgrade it and make it faster. So like your area around where you're living could have like better roads than a couple parcels over. So that could be a combined effort in a whole district where like, all right, guys, let's make District 1 like literally the luxury district of the world, or District 43 is like has like the best public transit or something like that. That would be pretty neat as well. So that'd be one consideration. Another one is, yeah, there will be an installation that you can get for your parcel that'll allow you to basically jump between your different parcels, and that one won't be very expensive, but it will require a certain level of altar. It won't be like level 9, but it will be I think probably level 3 or maybe 4. So you'll need to get that altar, and then you unlock this teleporter. So what you can do with the teleporter is it'll most likely have a cooldown, so you won't be able to use it like all the time every minute, because that would just be kind of we're trying to keep a sense of timing here in the game. We don't want everything to be too easy, and so there'll be a countdown on how often you can use it, which would get shorter as you level that installation up. So the final part of that would be the Gotchi actually using that teleporter will consume a certain amount of action points as well. And the other question would be like, okay, can anyone use it, or can only you? So most likely it'll be your Gotchi or a Gotchi that is borrowed but owned by you could use that teleporter. So you wouldn't want a bunch, like you wouldn't want your borrowed Gotchis coming in and using your teleporter. It'd be like someone going into your refrigerator and taking all your orange juice. Be like, man, why'd you drink all my orange juice? I wanted to teleport. So we
Yeah, because essentially that would be draining your ability to use that yourself if you wanted to. Like, oh dang, someone. See, it reminds me of like this roommate I used to have. He used to like he would like steal my food, and then he'd be like, "Oh, sorry, dude, I didn't know that was yours. I'll replace it," and then he would never replace it. So that kind of reminds me of that kind of dynamic. So maybe I have to make sure I'm okay with even lending that out. Otherwise, that's like a personal use parcel, you know.
Yeah, we need to get very granular with those kind of permissions.
I was even saying that with reputation. Like, you loan out your Gotchi, and then somebody runs around in the Gotchiverse, you know, playing like a jerk, and then like people think it's you. You know, they'd have to go back and check and see who was in control of the Gotchi at that time, if there's a way to see that. You know.
Well, you shouldn't be lending out your main Gotchi anyway. Like, I'm not going to lend out Coderdan for someone to play with.
Right.
Yeah, I can't rent out my Hefe or my Aavegotchi Pacific Chapter Gotchi because that's just going to ruin the branding of everything if I have someone who's a delinquent.
That's true, and that brings up the other side of it, is which Gotchi is your Anon Gotchi that you go run around playing like a jerk and blaming somebody that...
It could be like what district you're seen in, right? Oh man, I saw you in Aavechan district. Like, what are you doing over there, huh? There, maybe if you're going in like unallied guild territory, it might get pretty violent. Even though there's no violence in the Citadel, it'd be very political.
That's the stuff I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that's funny. Now you're gonna want to lend out your Aavegotchi double myth eyes cheap price. Just have that one running around. Okay, go lend that one out.
Oh man,
Yeah, any granular permissions like that.
Your used
Yeah,
car
will be cool.
brand Gotchi. Like
But yeah, so their transportation will be it's not going to be a thing where it's like totally free to just bump around all over the place. We do want to have multiple transportation options, and then if you have the parcel, you can get that teleporter installation that'll allow you to just hop from each one. But there will be a cooldown, so it's not like you won't be able to just jump around willy-nilly all the time. It would be funny though, like if you have a guild channeling that you're late for, and you're like, oh man, it's on this parcel, but I used my cooldown. Like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to like get a speed potion to haul ass over there to get to my guild channeling in time. It's gonna get really funny.
Or there's like a Gotchi bus that's on a loop and it comes around every 15 minutes because the district was actually wealthy enough to pay for a transport system.
Yeah, we're gonna have the monorail. Monorail.
Well, I mean, if the guild was really wealthy and they want to really spend all their glitter, maybe they could get a monorail installed somewhere. That would be
literally. Yep, we have definitely some cool design ideas for that. And again, I feel like it should be something that we allow people to set up, but not necessarily we can create the framework, but the community actually needs to like build it and decide where it should be within the world. That's kind of the fun of the open world idea.
It makes me wonder what kind of jobs are going to come out of this. Because right now we already have a job, right? That some people have taken upon themselves. They've done some coding, and they've created a Gotchi petter. So they're Gotchi petters. They create, systems to take care of Gotchis, like caretakers. And so I wonder what other roles now are going to emerge as the Gotchiverse launches. Like, are there going to be reservoir drainers? Like, their job is... Like literally, it's a guy sitting at a computer all day, and he goes around draining people's reservoirs so they can keep collecting Alchemica passively.
Yeah, there you go,
right?
For sure.
Is there going to be a Gotchi bus driver, like maybe a guy that drives the bus around? Like that's his only job, You tip him in glitter tokens.
Maybe. Maybe, yeah. Yeah. For sure, there'll be more jobs created. We're creating jobs here for the future Gotch economy.
Well, I was talking to...
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the guy I was talking to who did the YGG interview with us, he's handling this one arm that's responsible for Aavegotchi and a few other games. But he sat down with Gabby Dizon, who's like the founder of Guild, and they were actually in a meeting with one of the presidential candidates, Andrew Yang.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about UBI, and he was saying how, he was saying how Axie and like models, like what they were doing, if they could be sustainable, could actually provide, like that could be the future of UBI that everyone's been talking about. That it would be a way to provide for proof of work and actually show for your efforts to be compensated, right, with this UBI program. So it could be done through gaming essentially, and it's kind of cool how presidential candidate sat down with them to like talk about this stuff. So I feel like with what we're doing and how we're taking like a sustainable approach to this could possibly create some real income, like a real job for somebody to actually do this, and them being able to support their lifestyle.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of games emerging that they have like builders that people will pay you to build stuff on their parcel, like Minecraft style. That's definitely already. It's not really a UBI. It's more like it's a skilled profession. But if we're talking about more like unskilled professions, that would be something like the reservoir drainer. You just go around and it's like a borrowed gotchi, and it just goes around and if the owner has like 80 reservoirs, 80 parcels that they need drained every day, they're not going to do it themselves. They could split that profit like 90-10 maybe with that gotchi, and they could just go around, emptying reservoirs all day. That would be definitely
blue collar gotchi job.
Yeah.
You're just a humble reservoir drainer, and it's good pay. So
imagine like that's on my resume. I'm a future job experience includes emptying reservoirs in the Gotchiverse, ensuring minimum spillover,
Metaverse
optimizing.
driver.
So good. Liquidator, Slayer. I'm your bodyguard in the grid.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Just having bodyguards, that's true. Like if you have a big guild, you just have people standing around waiting for trouble.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Do you guys think that's something I've been thinking about? I keep going back and forth. Do we want to have a mechanic where you, as the owner of your parcel, can like send out a shockwave that knocks all the gotchis off your parcel within a certain radius? Basically, like right before you're about to empty your reservoir, you have like 20 guys lurking on your parcel. Should there be a way to kick them off with like a shockwave or something that could be a potion, it could like some sort of, it could be an installation, or it could be potion that you use or something as a gotchi to do that. But it seems to make sense that we'd want to have some mechanic like that. They could come back on, of course, but at least you could kick them off first.
It gives you that moment to respond. Yeah.
Yeah, walls are for getting them protecting from them coming in. But if they're already in, then what are you going to do with them? You'd be averse to emptying your reservoir.
So
they're
it
already
just
in
work
at this
for
point.
your parcel, no like outside area of effect. Just okay, cool. Yeah.
They're basically just like it would kick off everyone on your parcel.
Yeah, I actually thought maybe at a certain level these reservoirs could have different features. Maybe one of the features is this reservoir gets this repellent ability while it's getting drained. So it's like anybody around a 10 square radius around the reservoir gets kind of repelled away, like kind of like a magnet gets pushed.
Yeah,
away, and
it could be like an
until you're done.
installation. It'd be like an installation. You can use it every 12 hours or something. It's like, boom, you hit it and it's just like a little shockwave. But and not necessarily installation, but it could be a potion, or it could like a consumable, or like it could be a potion that is actually used by the Gotchi, and it just happens to knock Gotchis within an 8x8 radius around it away from it. That would be one way as well. Be instead of having an installation, it could be a consumable by the Gotchi.
And so when we're draining our reservoirs, will some of this alchemica, I'm assuming a lot of this or some of this alchemica will kind of be spilling out. Is that kind of the idea? Is that why we're saying we need to knock people back?
Yeah. It's gonna literally, depending on the level of the reservoir, some of it will spill over into the map nearby. So some of it will be nearby. There's going to be a fairly wide radius, especially for the lower level reservoirs. It's just going to get kind of sploshed around, and people far away will also be able to run around and get some of it, which is the whole idea. Is that like there's always alchemica just dropping from various sources around the map, and you don't really know where it came from, but it might drop in your parcel, and you're like, oh wow, alchemica just dropped in my parcel. That's pretty cool. And it's actually from like a guy 30 parcels over. And then some of your alchemica will also drop in his lawn as well. But especially with higher level reservoirs, you'll probably want an ability to, the radius is going to be smaller with those, so you'd want to have a way to kind of knock Gotchis back that are kind of trying to squat your alchemica. It's like already on your parcel, and you might already have walls, but they were able to get through the walls. They're just kind of chilling there. But it wouldn't be something you could use a lot. It would just be like more of a tactical mechanic where if you see, oh, there's a ton of alchemica here, I really want that alchemica, and I'm gonna use this potion. Boom! It's gonna blow back a couple Aavegotchi, but they might have a potion too. Yeah, it's a interesting mechanic for sure.
I mean, all this talk of alchemica spillage makes me think that, for the first bit when the Gotchiverse opens, I don't think there's going to be, if there isn't thousands of players, it's going to be a great opportunity to just kind of like run around and collect all this loose alchemica everywhere before, all the walls get put up and all the harvesters get upgraded and the reservoirs get upgraded. Where might be a lot more retained at that point. So it's almost like a free pass to collect alchemica at the start, because any activity almost that people are doing with harvesting is going to create this loose alchemica everywhere.
I mean, we're literally doing an airdrop. We're not really calling it an airdrop because I don't think we really need to, but it basically is an airdrop of a lot of alchemica. A decent chunk of alchemica for the first release of the Citadel, which is like the limited alpha release starting March 31st. It's going to literally just be run around and pick up as much alchemica as you can. We're going to try to add a little bit more complexity to it, involving like shooting hearts at like chunks of alchemica, so they kind of explode out, and it's not just a simple pickup. But that might not make it into this first version, because it's more, everything we do, every feature we add adds complexity. And so we're trying to get the minimum viable game out as quickly as we can for you guys. But that's definitely on the list. We want it to be a little bit more complex than just running around and picking up alchemica, because that will it'll be very rewarding, but kind of boring after a while. It'd be more exciting to have stuff that you can like shoot at.
But it's really incredible how far you've come, how far your Pixelcraft has come from that initial promise of what the Gotchiverse realm was going to be like. I remember when I first joined with Aavegotchi, it was around just before Haunt 2, we had started talking about the Gotchiverse. And the initial promise was, well, you won't really be able to do much like in the Gotchiverse besides like vote in the DAO, like physically go with your Aavegotchi and participate in governance. That was kind of the main thing that was going to come out when it launched. And now we have all these things, right? I see a couple more people in the audience that have their hands up. We see Mycalium and Zerk have their hands up.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and I just want to on that thought, when we first launched this project, we didn't really give ourselves as Pixelcraft a big allocation of Ghost, especially this summer. It was like we only had 100K Ghost each, which, yeah, 200K is a lot, but it's when you're trying to do a very ambitious project, it's really not that much. So our level of ambition was toned down. And then once we really, the Haunt 2 was really a moment where we finally, as a company, as a developer studio, had more of a little bit more budget to start playing with, where we could start getting more creative and think a bit bigger. And then finally, the Gotchiverse, you guys as a community have basically funded this entire thing with the investment into the Gotchiverse. I mean, that's really where we've been able to have a strong enough war chest in Ghost that we can, and also other tokens as well, that we can kind of devote to this kind of thing. So you guys are building it. You guys are funding it. We're just kind of building it out, and we want the community to be as involved as possible at every step, which is why we're doing the kind of the gameplay Bible methodology. So yeah, thank the community, thank you guys so much for your support of Pixelcraft, and if this thing gets bigger and bigger, and we're able to one day we're like a truly big dev studio, it's going to be wild. We're going to be probably the first community-owned, community-funded like dev studio in the world. Just pretty nuts.
Very, very ambitious, and I think we're on the right path to get there, especially where we're at now. It's a very exciting time. I just want to shout out to Zerk and Mike Callum. How's it going, guys?
All good on
morning.
me?
Yeah, good morning.
guys.
Morning.
Welcome.
Morning.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the walls, in the sense that is it gonna be like global protection if one gotchi basically takes it down, that it will be accessible for the rest of the gotchis? Because I was thinking like maybe there's like a big gotchi that just happens to be good with knocking down walls, and then it just attracts a lot of other gotchis, and then it's kind of raid. Yeah, I was curious about that actually.
Yeah, I think it'd be better user experience, player experience if it wasn't like that. Like if you knock down the wall, then especially for Aavegotchis, for liquidators, I think it'll be different. But as a gotchi, if you knock down a wall, it's not really knocking down a wall. There's like kind of two layers of protection on the walls. One is for gotchis only, and the other is the actual wall itself. So if you are able to brush off the pixie dust on top of the wall, which would be by firing fireballs or doing whatever, shooting the hearts at it, they're going to have a life bar. So you knock that off, and then you, as the gotchi who took it down, would be able to enter. But it does kind of add some complexity there, because like, what if multiple gotchis are attacking that wall? Only the gotchi that finally breaks it would be able to enter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the last hit, essentially, like who gets the kill off the wall, or so to say. Yeah, that would be interesting.
But I mean, we could do it that way, or it could just be.
And would the wall some sort of like knock back, essentially taking the health off the gotchis attacking, or the gotchi attacking? That could be also, yeah.
Yeah, the knockback will, it's not guaranteed that you'll be able to enter. You'll be running through it, and you might get knocked back by the wall as well.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. And maybe I was also thinking like, I think I posted about this also to this topic on the forum about the ideas about like things for Alchemica, and then I was thinking that this kind of shield could be potentially fueled by Alchemica. Yeah, like it basically requires some Alchemica in the reservoir for consumption. I thought that could be also an idea potentially for the walls, but I definitely like this kind of the fact that you're not guaranteed to enter, and then maybe there should be even a cooldown, so to say, that you cannot spend more than, I don't know, maybe half an hour in someone's land, and then you automatically get kicked out to potentially like prevent sniping, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, squatting would be a pretty annoying behavior unless you're in California.
Yeah, I
Then it's
mean,
perfectly normal.
I mean, imagine having 100 gotchis just camping in your land because you have very juicy, I don't know, yield.
Yeah, that's why I feel like there should be a mechanic where you can, yeah, like if they've been there for a while, you should be able to kick them off somehow. Like, but you can't use it very often. Like it'd be somewhere you just like you shoot out the shockwave and it just knocks back all the gotchis on your parcel for. They can come back in, but they would at least you'd get a couple like a minute or 30 seconds to do your business.
Yeah, what if there's like a popular, gotchi lodge in the area, and then they kick them out at a certain time, and these guys are just hanging out on your parcel,
They definitely will, but there will be camping for sure.
I can't afford to teleport back home. I'm just gonna hang out here.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny.
So if I can steal the stage for a moment, I got two things that are on my mind this morning. One, the Aavegotchi pool on Good Ghosting is wrapping up, so congratulations for everyone who's stuck it out. That's going to be done March 20th. We've been averaging about 100 plus APY on that ghost pool, so that's well done. Good Ghosting still has to spend that 3 Gs of ghost on wearables and likely a floor gotchi or 2 or maybe 3. And so we still have a raffle to do when that's done, and that'll be fun. And then the other thing for me is just congratulations to every single one of us. This Vigos takeover of Cheetao is like literally historic, and I'm feeling really so impressed and so empowered by the ability that this particular protocol can snatch away one of the most interesting things happening on Polygon, Phantom, and soon to be Avalanche.
Can you give an overview of like what happened with the Chi Wars and how we are winning that?
For sure. So Chi Wars, reference Curve Wars for anyone that wants to look at the historical background. But essentially, Chi is a platform that does 0% interest loans. And so by their foundational mechanism, they have a revenue stream. What the Chi Wars is all about is using governance to determine and allocate where that revenue stream gets put. And so projects are able to individually lobby to have their particular collateral added as a collateral vault in Cheetao, so you can borrow against it, which the Gotchi Vault did with vGhost, and Aavegotchi did with Ghost. But vGhost and the Gotchi Vault have just been hyper aggressive with the Cheetao play, and so they've aggregated right now. They're at 13 million Chi worth of voting power, which is the most that anybody has. And so we have about 25% of the Cheetao gauge currently allocated. So like 25% of Cheetao's revenue is going to be sent to the vGhost Vault holders. Which right now only has a full borrow capacity of like 250,000. And so it's extremely limited in how much Chi or vGhost vaults exist compared to what kind of revenue stream is going to be targeting them. I think we're going to see like a kind of a jaw-dropping APR this first prize cycle.
Wow.
And then as we see more debt allowed, as the debt ceiling increases in Cheetao, it'll dilute slightly. But Moo Beefy has been kind of the star of the show because they took over with about a 10 million Chi DAO weight, and we have totally snatched it away from them, and I didn't know that was possible.
I saw there was a guy on Twitter. How big is that guy? He's a Chi whale, right? What was the mechanic for swinging his vote?
For sure. So Bearded is a mastermind. Wagny's been really involved as well. Mark Zeller was already kind of a Chi whale, but Miyazaki is that guy. He's like an 8 million Ichi vote, which is substantial. I think the next largest person anywhere is like maybe 2.9. And so this guy is gigantic, and he single-handedly elevated Moo Beefy to the top spot because he's part of that community. But what we're watching Miyazaki realize that this Aavegotchi community might be like more engaging, interesting, and fulfilling than being a member of an auto-compounding DeFi protocol community, because they don't have much to do over there. It's cool to support Beefy, and then I guess we won, but it's just different when he's able to ask for things like, hey, what about like a Gotchi or some PFP art? I mean, you guys got a lot of stuff cooking over here. How can I get plugged into this, and how can you make it worth my time?
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. So the ball, you guys are you giving him an Aavegotchi?
Apron was saying that someone's going to do it regardless. Like even if there's not an agenda, someone is going to feel compelled enough to hook him
Yeah,
up, like
that's
Wagner or
awesome.
someone. But I'm also wanting to use GMI to make sure that we get him some quality PFP art, like from Ben Lagin or from Zax or someone like that, just to make sure that we like wrap this guy in the cloak of our culture and totally convert him.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, I was watching that on Twitter. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like converting a huge chi whale.
It's substantial. We have more to offer than anyone else does at this stage, and we're barely getting started. And so our conversion rate is really high. We've just got to draw the eyeballs.
How long does this round last? Is it like it's like 1 week, or is it every 2 weeks?
Yeah, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks they'll have a new gauge vote, and so this rate will last for 2 weeks. The thing to watch for right now, if you're interested at all, is to pay attention to Cheetah announcements for when they increase the debt ceiling on the VGhost vaults, so that way you can possibly open one yourself and participate in this nice incentive.
And VGhost, it's also what is, for people who don't know, what is VGhost?
That's like a long topic there, right? But in the shortest thing, VGhost is like a 1-to-1. It's a semi-peg 1-to-1 against Ghost. VGhost is the asset created by the Gotchi Vault, and that's Bearded and ensuing manager's team over there. And so basically, it's like a players co-op. And so as you know, they have different revenue mechanisms in mind. Specifically, the raffle strategy was their initial play. They're also looking at like rental revenue from renting gotchis and eventually land. And then now this is another revenue stream, which is like the Cheetah incentives, which is great because it's an external revenue. Like it's not even taking Aavegotchi resources at all. It's bringing in fresh capital. And so it's just
that's super cool.
Absolutely. And so and I'm watching it happen right now. There's a lot of what we call chimps, that are like popping around in the Discord and on Twitter being like, hey, what the hell's this ghost thing? What's up with this Gotchi thing? And so we're having a lot of free publicity by taking over the Chi Wars.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember, a couple weeks ago where there was a discussion about the vault as potentially kind of value extracting, saying that they're paying out APYs to people in raffle tickets. But if it's gotten to a point where they can actually help attract new capital, that's gonna raise awareness about Aavegotchi, like that's really, really powerful.
Well, and I was pondering on this morning because I was thinking that they're one of the first to successfully pull this off. But I want to give a shout out to 8-Bit Gamers Guild as well. The Pepagotchi revenue stream mechanism that they've developed is working out really well too, and they're found another way to bring eyeballs to our protocol that are not already Gotchi gang, and offer conversion opportunities.
And that is, I've seen those on Twitter. They're also like kind of NFTs that have their Pepe, but also Aavegotchi related somehow.
Exactly. Yeah, Hefe is kind of a pro now on that, but they are rare Pepe aficionados at 8-Bit, and so they've created like the perfect hybrid of Pepe culture and Aavegotchi culture.
Yeah. So,
cool.
So actually, yeah, the rare, and I'm very much like new to this. Master Yang, who was here earlier, he's a rare Pepe, fake rare community kind of aficionado, and he's kind of explained the process to me of how the rare Pepe came to be, and it's really quite interesting because the rare Pepe, the Pepagotchi card, it's a card NFT, is on the Bitcoin blockchain on Counterparty. So it's actually kind of it's an on-chain NFT, but on the Bitcoin it's related to the Bitcoin network. And I don't know the specifics of that, but I do know the community itself. The Rare Pepe community is they do these card releases in series, and you must have, I believe, a burnable token in order to even be able to get access to the ability to mint a card. So it's very kind of exclusive in that sense because these burnable tokens are no longer made. So whoever has them has the ability to basically propose these fake rare cards, and if they get vetted by the community, they can burn this token and be able to mint a certain amount. And so initially there were 500 Pepagotchis that were minted, but out of that, I think now there are about 120 left because they did a burn. And out of that, there are we did a Keck Lord membership for the guild where you pay, like 200 ghost and you'd get a bunch of guild related benefits, but you'd also get the Pepagotchi. And the cool thing is a lot of the people who've gone for either buying the Pepagotchi or through the membership, they have learned a lot about this other culture, this other community that's based on a different blockchain, but they're also art collectors and they're passionate about collecting their rare Pepes. But then, crossing that over with Aavegotchi, now you have rare Pepe people saying, well, what is this thing? Like, what is a Pepagotchi? Well, it's a Pepe crossed with an Aavegotchi. And so then they head over to Aavegotchi and they figure out all this stuff that's going on with our game. And you get people coming in here. And then on the other end of things, you have Gotchi gang members that are collecting, like myself, that have collected a Pepagotchi. And I'm thinking like, okay, this thing's really cool, but like, what is this? And then I go over to Counterparty. I see there's other rare Pepe cards that are, similar, gone through that similar process to become official. Mm-hmm. And now you can collect these cards as well to add to your rare Pepe collection. And so it's really cool how that's kind of crossing over to other communities and creating this interest across communities. I think overall, the guild has raised, through selling the rare Pepes, I think they've raised almost half a BTC. So it's like, It was pretty successful in that right to raise like funds for the guild. And it gave me, I think it was a really good, it showed me that you could create value by connecting other communities together through art. And that was a really eye-opening kind of thing for me to see how that project unfolds. And so, yeah, you can still go in Counterparty, and you have to go to these things called the dispenser, and you'll be able to grab, if there are any Pepagotchis left, you'd be able to grab them. But I think last time I checked, the floor price for one of these was like, I think $1,400 or something like that, in BTC. So they're definitely in demand. I know like some Gotchi gang members bought like a whole bunch of them. And so this rare Pepe card is part of Series 5 because they do them in series. And so it also has like music and stuff attached to it. So it's kind of cool in that sense. And actually recently Master Yang had tweeted that it made the fake rare kind of Hall of Fame with like all the other cards there's some well-known cards, I guess, within the fake rare community, and Pepagotchi is like one of them. It's up there. And cool. I'm not sure what metrics they use to select them. I think I saw about 10 of them on there, maybe there's a few more, but Pepagotchi's up there, and that was quite impressive to see that. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. So cool, guys. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many other kind of guilds or projects kind of start crossing over to other NFT communities through art. I think that's going to be a medium that people use to get people over to Aavegotchi through art.
I mean, yeah, once like it's going to become irresistible. Like you're going to be able to run this cool Pixel Ghost around, pick up Alchemica, hang out at a cool guild, do these like crazy rituals together. Like, what's not to love about it? It's complex, but I'm really hoping that the Gotchiverse is going to simplify the formula for a lot of people. It's going to be like just get an Aavegotchi and run around, and everything else will, like, if we can just hook them there, everything else will be a process where people will slowly go down that rabbit hole, because it is pretty intense. And doing like the art collaborations like this is a great way to get more people involved. It's really, really cool, guys. Past midnight for me, so I'm gonna sign off here. But you guys, everyone, feel free to keep going. And remember, tomorrow, 1 hour before the normal hangout, I believe we're going to be doing a community discussion on the traits balancing. Mostly, we'll be just going over ideas that have been proposed in the traits balance thread here, and we'll probably do community polls like we did last time. That was really fun. So as the discussion kind of starts wrapping up, and hopefully we will have a sig prop kind of emerging from this discussion. That's the goal. Is we have basically gone through all the motions and done the work. Now we're going to try and tie up the loose ends and get a final traits version system for the initial launch of the Gotchiverse.
That's cool.
So
yeah, that's awesome.
So thanks everyone. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here.
See you guys later.
Yep,
You as
thank
well.
you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, with that being said, I gotta head off too. I got a online class that I do on Saturdays, so I gotta head out for that. It was fun hanging out with all you friends. Got
Yeah.
some little bits of alpha today.
I'll
That
do
was
some
good.
cheat out. I'll do some cheat out preaching after. If anyone wants to stick around, I'll
Yeah.
do some cheat preachings.
Right
Cool.
on. Yeah, I wish
hang
you
out
could
a
stick
bit.
around, but yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
friend.
sounds good, fellas. I'll see you. Well, we have our Gotchi Gang Twitter space hangout tomorrow, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. But other than that, yeah, I'll see you guys there if you show up. So if not, I'll see you there. See you here next weekend. So yeah,
Yeah.
take
have
care,
fun.
friends.
See you soon.
And yeah, later, friends.
All right, so I'm going to use this opportunity because a couple of y'all here in the weekly chat got some chattings going. So like, what was it, Pebbles and Choina, kind of gets you guys an opportunity to just kind of hear some about this now. So we'll start like top down and just trickle down. So like, what is Cheetao, right? So Cheetao is a place where you can make deposits with mixed collateral. They started on Polygon last May. I loved them to death because they started on Polygon as an original protocol from there, and it 100% was about creating a stablecoin called, at that time, Mematic, nowadays called Mai, backed 100% by Polygon Matic token deposits. And so it was a really strong move in the direction of stablecoins backed 100% by cryptocurrency volatile assets. And so that was really slick to begin with. And then they started offering vaults where you could deposit that collateral and borrow against it for a percentage APR incentive. Where does that revenue come from? Cheetao is 0% interest on their loans. And so there's no cost to hold the loan. You only pay when you pay off the loan. When you pay off the balance of a loan, you pay 0.5% of that balance as a fee to Cheetao. So that's when they generate their revenue, and then they're staggered on their loans. Lots of people come in and go in at different times, and so that's why for them the revenue stream is apparently consistent enough to be substantial, and this model works for them. They seem sustainable at the 0% interest model. So that's Cheetao's product. That's what Cheetao does. What Cheetao saw somewhere along the way is they saw the curve wars and how that was affecting the curve token price. And I'm not going to explain the curve wars in detail because it's essentially the same as the Cheetao wars. And so, we'll explain them both in one go here. But look up the curve history if you're interested in the historical referencing here. But curve is essentially rooted and based in Ethereum. So it's the Ethereum example of what Cheetao is doing on a couple of other layer 2s. And so what Cheetao decided is to offer governance. And they'd already had governance token for the long time, the actual Chi token, and then there's the stablecoin Mematic Mai. And so, they're always trying to find utility for their Chi token. They have a very active DAO, a lot like Aavegotchi does. It's a very, very talkative DAO, and they get a lot of stuff done over there. They're very, very cooperative. But what Cheetao is doing at this point is using their governance token to let people vote on a gauge. And when we say gauge, it just means like an array of options. So you just got a whole bunch of different choices to vote on. And whoever wins that, it's weighted, so it's not a winner take all. And so it's just the strength of the gauge itself to determine where the rewards are going. And I'm just going to kind of get some visual aids. So let me take a quick screenshot here, and I'm going to pop this up in the weekly Hangouts as well so we can see kind of what we're talking about here. So like here's the current gauge for this week. And so this is the very first week that vGhost has ever even been a part of the Cheetao gauge. And so for us to have first entry and then take over at the top of the gauge at 24% is freaking crazy. It's literally crazy. I have 21,000 Chi locked, just self-disclosed. And 6 months ago, I was a top 5 voter. 6 months ago, I could control a good portion of what the Cheetao protocol influenced at us, not at a whale vote at all, but it was definitely enough that they knew I was at the voting table. Today, I'm insignificant. Today, I'm a total minnow. Today, I don't even matter anymore, really. I'm getting value from the bribery system that's going into place, which is a lot like the curve bribe system. Bribes tend to have like a negative connotation word to it. They're not bad things really in this regard. They're just trying to convince people to vote for other people. And so the protocol that gets the most weight in this vote gets the largest share of the revenue stream directed towards its collateral vault. And so what we're looking at with this gauge is that vGhost is going to have the most of the cheat out protocol's honestly earned revenue directed towards that collateral vault system. And so how do you realize value from that? As a user, you need to have a vGhost vault. You need to have a vGhost vault and have a borrow held against it within a certain range to be eligible for that incentive stream. And so you do have to play the Chi game, and you do have to step into their protocol to be able to like access the value creation here. But I would imagine, like the Gotchi Vault is likely gonna, it's gonna have tons of users that are gonna open up vGhost vaults and receive the incentive benefit from it. But it could even on its own level, like have a borrow vault. If the DAO decided that it wanted to, I could see something like the Gotchi Vault holding a very well maintained borrow vault and stablecoin farming up the back end with it. But I'm a DeFi degen by nature, so none of this is financial advice, and none of it is like go do this. It's just that there's this thing now that people can do, and it just wasn't able to be done prior, and so it's a really neat thing. You can do stablecoin farms with it and keep it really well maintained in your vGhost vault. And I will say that I've held lots of vaults in Cheetah, and Ghost, by all accounts, is been the safest vault that I've ever held. It's one of the least volatile, and that's just historical. It's not metaphorical at all. It's just the reality of the situation. It always survives better than my other vaults. And so I can see, a responsible use of a healthy, maintained Cheetah vault with vGhost to be able to participate in that vGhost incentive, which most users are going to take those incentives and roll them back into getting more Chi, essentially. And then once we have more Chi, we get to control that gauge even more. And it's a lot harder to lose the top spot, or it's a lot harder to be removed from the top spot once you've taken it. It's very difficult to take number one hold, but once you get it, you have it for a long time. Move Beefy took over that 10 million spot, and like Polygon themselves as a network, Hamza Khan is their marketing guy, community guy. Like they came out with a bribery system. I was paid by Polygon in a bribe for voting on Polygon in the Chi Wars. And so that was cool to see the beginning of like public bribing for Chi control. But at that vote, they barely competed with Mubifi. They barely got like 7 million together, and they did not win. And it was close, but competitive, but they did not win. And so watching the vGhost crush Mubifi like this, it just makes me well with excitement and pride, because like I didn't realize that we had this much like DeFi precision power. And so if we can snipe these very intelligent ideas and revenue potentials when we see them this effectively, like this is going to be crazy, because we've all been talking about the money that Aavegotchi is creating for all of us. But when we and Aavegotchi, in tandem can create value from external to bring into our ecosystem, it becomes shockingly more lucrative. So that's kind of the primer on Cheetah itself, and how vGhost is playing into this, and how you can participate in it and things like that. Let's see here, just the question: what are the first steps I can take to utilize my vGhost in the Gotchi Vault in the Cheetah ecosystem, ready for when the lending cap is raised, not look for NFA for sure. So like Choina, the best thing to do is, you're kind of in my boat right now too. So when they created the vGhost Vault, it had a $250,000 debt cap. And so that was caught quick. Looking at vault managers, because people that knew were able to be in line and grab some as soon as it was available. And so we need to wait for Cheetah to open up that lending cap. When they do that, I have a Ghost Vault already in place. I have a vault in Cheetah built on Ghost. And all I'm going to do is use the Gotchi Vault utility that they've provided that lets you hot swap. It uses a balancer flash loan and switches a current ghost vault into a vGhost vault, moves the debt with it as well. So you could go ahead and get like into position in a ghost vault with a light duty borrow against it with a debt ceiling that still exists. And then you're just waiting for the announcement for debt ceiling for vGhost to have been raised. And you can use the Gotchi Vault utility to do a flash loan swap. That would be my advice to how to get into position to take advantage of the vGhost incentive opportunity without like just holding all the pieces in your wallet waiting for the vGhost vault itself. You can build the vault with Ghost and then use the utility to swap. How do you get vGhost, right? And so vGhost, the easiest way to get vGhost is to go to the Gotchi Vault themselves, and then you deposit actual Ghost token, and you are given vGhost as a 1-to-1 credit when you deposit. Where vGhost gets interesting is that the vGhost ratio on the back end, yeah, exactly, Diddley, that vGhost ratio on the back end is changing. And so like the day you make your exchange, you get exactly the amount of vGhost that your Ghost is worth at that time. But the vGhost ratio to Ghost is changing over time. Essentially, it's always creeping upward. And it's because the Gotchi Vault revenue mechanism is the thing that is increasing that ratio. Can you just buy it? Diddley Poo, I'll let you answer that in the text chat. I don't think so yet. I do not think there's any vGhost liquidity on the open market dexes. I could see a day where that could potentially develop. But yeah, there's no LP for it currently, and so there is no open market purchasing of vGhost. There's no dexing on the vGhost yet. Oh, maybe, yeah, there's probably $100 or something like that. A very small micro liquidity pool that someone's probably just experimenting with. But if one day in the future, if the vGhost ratio, is starting to grow more aggressively and the dexes get more liquidity in them, there could be potential arbitrage creation. So maybe there's a demand for an LP or something like that. But currently that's not the case. And so getting it from the home base at the Gotchi Vault by depositing Ghost is currently the method of choice. I know, PG, right? I'm on a tear here, man. You guys are listening, and so I'm talking because this is like a huge deal, and I've been lucky enough to be with Cheetah since it was born, and so I've just watched every step along the way, and watching the Chi Wars develop has been like gorgeous. It's genius. But I have been salty as shit. I'll be honest. I have been really salty because Phantom essentially stole it. Phantom did a really great coordinated effort behind Moo Beefy, and it absolutely stole the Cheetah revenue stream from its home base of Polygon, and that really put a bone in my side. And so I thought that Polygon themselves as a network would be aggressive enough to be able to take it back, and they were competitive, but they did not take command. And so then, my next hope was like maybe Ghost Token, right? Maybe Aavegotchi's got the community that's rabid enough to take over this thing. And the reality is the Ghost Token never performed really well in the gauge. It was like a 1 to 2% at the most. And it's because people like Mark Zeller were voting on their vaults, which were laid up in Cheetah. So it was a cheap play. And so now having like bearded Mark Zeller, Wagme, me, all of us chimps able to focus our Aavegotchi assets and chimp models into alignment in one asset vault with vGhost, it's wicked crazy. And vGhost itself is already nasty as hell. Like that mechanism. For reference, okay, this is just more, right? I'm sharing everything. I love you guys. And so DeFi Kingdoms is on Harmony, and it's doing really well over there. It's a very neat play to earn mechanism. It's not Aavegotchi, and it's not as good at all. But I like it. It's okay. They're doing decent. They created a Ghost vGhost type mechanism. They called it Jewel is their token over there. So they created a Jewel X Jewel. And the way you got X Jewel is you deposited Jewel with the actual game protocol. You would deposit it in what they called the bank, and you would get X Jewel. And then that ratio changes through revenue feeding because they took 30% of the DEX fees and targeted it to the bank. And so the X Jewel ratio grows away from Jewel, a lot like the vGhost to Ghost ratio. And today, they've been doing this for like 6 months over there with this Jewel X Jewel. And today the ratio is 1 to 1.7. And so right now our vGhost Ghost ratio is 1 to 1.001 still, or 0.1. And so we're not even in the 10th place yet in terms of ratio change. And so I see a future where Vigos will be a 1 to 1.5, a 1 to 2, 1 to 2.5. It's just going to grow over time as long as the Gotchi Vault's well managed and stays solvent in terms of its revenue strategies. And that's the job of the managers, but the managers are very much directed at the whim of the DAO. And so that's why I'm not at all like terrified of the Gotchi Vault. It doesn't keep me up at night. It like lets me sleep like a freaking baby, because we are securing the future for the Gotchi gang, in my opinion. And so I know there's lots of feelings about the Gotchi Vault in general, but like if we don't do this, someone's gonna, and I absolutely want it to be an internal operation opposed to someone externally extracting value from us. So that'll be the end of my rant. Happy to answer questions if anyone's got text chat or anything. Security around the vault's pretty tight. Like Cheetah themselves have never had an exploit or a breach, like in their contracts. They did get jammed up with the superfluid exploit here recently, and that was just unfortunate, but not necessarily anything like at their only fault was that they used superfluid. And so it wasn't a knock on Cheetah's like protocol or contract security. It was very much specific to them using superfluid. So I'm very pleased with their security. They have audits. They do a good job of being very transparent, and they make their changes known in public. And the DAO has very good control of Cheetah, a lot like how we can stop a rarity farming season or a land sale. They have that pretty good level of involvement. And so I've been pretty pleased with my like faith in the Cheetah holders to keep it on course. Let me just follow there on what that's a hard name, right? FWESDVA, Fuezda. Phantom is fading away. That's biased. Okay, that's not verifiably. It's not verifiably recognized in the world yet, but I feel it. I feel it. I see it. I agree 100% that that's. It tried to do what we were already doing. Now people realize that there's saturation and overlap, and 2022 is likely to be one of the great shakeouts. And we're going to see only utility and true value survive. Cool. That's going to do it for me on this rant. It was just kind of to make sure that while I have everybody here, you have an opportunity to hear the primer and the dump on it. Because if you want more, like hop in probably the Gotchi Vault Discord's the best place to continue all of these directions. But the Cheetah protocol is awesome too. And they got a good Discord, and it's really a nice community. And so there's plenty more to expand upon. But it's a boom for all Gotchi holders. It's a boom for all Ghost holders for sure. It's not the Gotchi Vault in and of itself in an insulated instance, improving just its coffers, because it is, and that's good to the Gotchi Vault, and that's why I support them, and I think it's going to be the one that receives the most of this success. But it's going to put Ghost in more minds, and it's going to expose Aavegotchi to so many more users. A lot of people hold Ghost token on Ethereum mainnet and don't use our protocol or own Gotchis. They play the token game, and so offering this opportunity for more like DeFi Legos and DeFi strategy is bullish. So there you go, guys. That's it for me. So I'm gonna hop out of here, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.
Yeah, I'm glad you jumped in here and gave us all that and rewarded everybody for sticking around for so long. It's been a long call, so yeah, thanks for that.
Better than a POAP, right?
The real alpha.
There you go. There you go, fellas. You'll see me in the Gotchi Vault. Talk to Bearded. Let Bearded know, man. That guy's a freaking stud. I really, really love his brain. So, like, if you're into this plan, you're into what they're doing, just ask them. Like, they're happy to talk about it. They're just so busy that they can't usually do lots of the talking, and so that's why it's my pleasure. So, enjoy yourselves, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. UTC for the traits discussion, and I'll be there recording that one as well. I'll try to get this one posted up today. Thanks.
Snip, all the alpha.
Okay, you want me to take that out?
Nah, it's fine. We'll let everybody have access.
Anybody who gets through the 2.5 hours deserves it.
That's fair. All right, guys.
Thank you. Bye.